Greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. This is your host, Trust Christian. Own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening in on the replay. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to step up on a public platform and talk about a lot of the things that have been hidden from most public individuals. Today, we're going to be talking about how to operate your trust or a trust internationally. Once again, how to operate your trust internationally, how to operate a trust internationally. Why is this so important? It's so important because in trustee training, once again, I share with you all it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's a very unique opportunity because in trustee training, we make sure that our trustees can operate internationally. How do we make sure that they can operate internationally? We make sure that they can operate internationally because they need to know the law. They need to be able to operate and know how a trust can go in from one jurisdiction to the next jurisdiction and do it with the most amount of privacy. We want to make sure that clients and trustees can go from one jurisdiction to the next with free maneuverability. So the way that we're going to do this, and the reason why I'm doing this is I actually had a consultation with someone from Australia. And it's really awesome because, as you grow in the industry as a trustee and individuals dealing with trust and people traveling back and forth from the States to Australia or wherever in the world, you understand that there is a law system that this law system that we're talking about, the law of trust, actually has been prevalent and comes from, which is the common law of England. And so when I hear a lot of individuals talk about having a common law trust, a lot of times individuals don't understand that the common law is in many different jurisdictions around the world. They don't understand that that type of entity is one of the most powerful style of trust based off of the fact of how it actually is crafted. When we talk about trust, we're talking about contract. So the contract is crafted and drafted in a way in which it can operate in common law jurisdictions. And the reason why it can do that is because it's utilizing the United Nations Convention on Trust. Now, a lot of you all might not be familiar with this. I hear a lot of individuals say, oh, I have a common law trust. So we're going to go to the United Nations, UN Convention on Trust. And I'm going to just really share the year with you all. Because a lot of times it's the Hague Convention on the law applicable to trust and the recognition of trust. So when we're talking about trust, we're talking about countries that recognize and allow these entities, trust in particular, to operate internationally. So this is where and how you see entities operating in different jurisdictions and doing it with minimal tax liability, with the most amount of privacy. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you all that the convention was a multilateral treaty developed on private international law, which is the law applicable to trust, and it only relates to the trust within the written instrument. So it's really dealing with the fact on the way that the instrument is written, which is generally going to be talking about the trust contract or the trust indenture. But a lot of times, like I say, a lot of people, they want to talk about this whole international trust aspect. Oh, I have international trust, or oh, I have a foreign trust. Well, if you have a foreign trust, why wouldn't it be able to operate in different jurisdictions? If it's able to operate in different jurisdictions, then it has to utilize a certain style of law. See, that's what we educate our trustees on. We educate them on that law. See, once again, I have to remind you all that I was educated, Trust Christian was educated from mentors. This is not something that you can Google. You can't Google it. I mean, even though you can go and look at the United Nations Convention on Trust, when you look at that, it's not super clear on the fact that it has to be a common law style of entity. I can go through and read it. It has quite a few sections, but I don't think that that's necessary. What I do want to point out is that's something that we share with our trustees on how to do that internationally, and they can go and verify that with the lawyer. See, we don't claim to be lawyers or CPAs. We educate trustees on how to go hire good lawyers and good CPAs. So when it comes to operating internationally, the way that you learn how to operate your trust internationally is by understanding that you have to go through trustee training. Two, you have to understand that once again we're talking about common law entities. That's one of the things that they recognize inside of it. But I can assure you of this: And you can rest assured of this. For all individuals that have a thing called a statutory entity, or individuals that have what's called a domestic entity, you don't have a foreign trust. I'll repeat that again. For any individuals that have a domestic trust or a statutory trust, living trust, revocable trust, charitable remainder trust, those are all statutory trusts. Those cannot operate internationally. That's the facts. Why? Because when you go and read the United Nations Conventional Trust, United Nations generally is dealing with what? Multiple nations agreeing to allow entities to come into that jurisdiction and do business. So they don't recognize statutory entities. They don't recognize domestic entities. They actually tell you that in the document. So we have to know how to have the contracts made to where they can operate internationally. Okay, there's no such thing as a common law trust per the IRS. Let's see what the IRS says about this whole common law trust thing, because I think I've read this before, and I just want to make sure that you all can see that the IRS does not recognize certain entities. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I type this all in for you, so just give me a second here. If you are live with me, feel free to say hello. But I just wanted to connect with you all and share this aspect with you all, which is how you operate internationally. Okay. Abusive trusts and tax schemes. We always go back to that abusive special types of trust. Common law trust. Contrary to claims, promoters, common law trusts no longer exist, since all states have statutes relating to the creation of operation of trust. Now, if this was a fact, okay, if this was a fact, every state in the United States was created off of the common law of England, okay, except for Louisiana. That's some research you can go do. They say that the trusts no longer exist, but they didn't say that the states are not adhering to the common law, which, if you go to every state contract, which is the constitution for that state, it says that no state can abridge the right to contract. So if no state can impair or abridge the right to contract, and a trust is a contract, then yes, it is upholding what is called the common law right to contract. Because when you do your research on the common law right to contract, those are countries that are allowing entities, quote unquote contracts, to operate in those jurisdictions as persons, quote unquote legal persons. This is the facts. This is how you operate your trust internationally. You have to have the proper contract. It says that the states no longer, because why? They want you to have a statutory entity in the states right now. Okay? I was talking to one of my mentors the other day about this whole foreign trust situation, common law trust, and he's like, it's awesome, because a lot of the times when you're dealing in the international realm, they love seeing international trust. They love seeing common law style entities. Why? Because most of the places that are going to allow you to come do business in their particular operation or place to do business are generally going to be common law entities. Why? Because they respect the right to contract. So when we were talking to this particular trustee from Australia, you can immediately go to the Australian Constitution and go to the basis of their law, which is they respect the right to contract. A trust is nothing more than a contract. So the trust can maneuver in not only the states, but it can maneuver in Australia. And this is just one example of many of the different countries that the trust can operate in those jurisdictions, because we're talking about international trust. We're talking about private trusts, which are generally going to be foreign trusts, and those entities truly are foreign because they can operate in those jurisdictions based on the fact because of the right to contract. The United States is not the only country that adheres to the common law right to contract. So it's very important for you to understand that if you say that you have a trust or you want to operate internationally, if you do want to learn how to do that and you don't have that right now in place, you can contact us at christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, that's christian@trustchristian.com. So if you have a living trust, you want to create more separation on assets and more anonymity, you have that ability to do so. And so we operate and we share with our trustees on how to actually do so. And so it's really important to be able to do that through the proper education, and that's something that we provide. We are going to be doing a workshop here in San Francisco or Miami, in South Florida here in the first quarter of 2018. So go ahead and start preparing yourself within the first 2 or 3 months. It's probably going to be either January or February. Most likely looking at uh, the end of January or the beginning of February to do a workshop in both of those cities. So just be prepared for that. But I really just wanted to share with you all. A lot of times people try to say, oh, I have an offshore trust. Well, really, an offshore trust is really just dealing with the fact that that it's in a jurisdiction foreign to where you might be currently residing, or if it was created in the states, then it's offshore at this point. There's no necessarily definition of an offshore trust, because what does that mean? It still has to have a actual location or a domicile where a citizen that is sitting at. So when individuals talk about having offshore trust accounts, that's just some stuff they've heard in the movies. But when we talk about operating internationally, or how to operate your trust internationally, we're talking about utilizing the proper common law contracts. And that's something that if you search and you actually read the United Nations Convention on Trust, the Hague Convention on Trust, you'll actually see that they recognize common law entities, but they specifically do not honor and look at statutory and domestic entities from those jurisdictions. So if you have a state created trust, if you have a domestic trust, you're not allowed to operate internationally. That's the facts. You have to set up additional entities. And so that's why in trustee trading, we just make sure that you're all good right from the beginning when you're looking to do business internationally, because that's what it's all about. It's about being able to own nothing, control everything. And you have to be able to maneuver freely when you're actually doing business out here. So I just want to thank you all. If you all have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. If you're looking to get in trustee training and a serious inquiry, you all can feel free to email us at christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, that's christian@trustchristian.com. Look forward to sharing with you all how to operate your trust internationally, and make it a point. A lot of people say, oh, how do you operate businesses internationally? And we tell them, it's all in trust. And that's the most important thing. So I look forward to hearing from you all via email. If not, I'll be doing a post most likely tomorrow on Facebook, and we're going to keep going every single day this month on YouTube, and just going to make it a point to bring you all some quality content. So thank you all. Look forward to the serious inquiries. Peace and blessings.